request Mr. Parvaiz Hussain, Business Head EarlySalary, to give his presentation on enabling affordable healthcare for India through healthcare expenses financing. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. Sorry for the delay. I'm here to put some light on the aspect of healthcare affordability through healthcare financing. I would like you to meet the Subramaniam family. Mr. Subramaniam is a small town Kirana owner and currently expecting his first child. Similar to most of India's families, Subramaniam family lacks health insurance. Mrs. Gayatri Subramaniam is expecting a normal delivery. Meanwhile, Mr. Subramaniam is scrambling for his bills, handling admission and paperwork. After multiple tests, Gayatri is advised elective C-section. Now, chances are that Mr. Subramaniam will scramble to put together 1 lakh rupees as out-of-pocket expense. They will soon realize that this system of arranging funds actually fails them. When the final bill arrives, owing to post-operative procedures and neonatal care, the bill is more than expected. Even as the parents enjoy their newborn child, they are constantly bogged down by the financial strain they had to endure in the process. The case is almost identical, if not more complicated, in critical cases like cancer, cardiac, and other organ-related procedures. The impact of loss from non-communicable disease by 2030 is projected to be a whopping $6 trillion US. If you see a healthcare journey of any individual, right from the time he's born, every person in his lifetime traverses a journey of health accompanied with finances associated with each stage, right from birth, hospital fees, prenatal, neonatal expense, later preventive and wellness, going on to screening of and early detection of other diseases, then onwards primary care, tertiary care, post-acute care, and finally till the end of life. Throughout his journey, the patient has to bear a good amount of out-of-pocket expense, which are high and unpredictable, which is a big challenge and prevents the patient from taking right care at the right time. Addressing India's healthcare crisis will mean turning around the way services are offered to the patients. It would augur well for the healthcare industry to take a leaf out of other industry practices of empowering customers to choose affordability, and that too with convenience. Some statistics. 62.68% of total expenditure on healthcare in India was out of pocket. World's average out of pocket expenditure is 18.2%. That's a stark difference. GDP spend on healthcare currently stands at mere 2.1%. More than 16% of Indian households go below poverty line due to expensive out of pocket expenditure on healthcare. Only 7% of Indian population is covered under health insurance. This includes all the private as well as government health insurance. So, having seen that, what is Fintech for Healthtech? It comprises of a grid having on the y-axis, if you see, there are digital financial services which include digital savings, crowdfunding, insurtech, and digital lending. These work along with the healthcare delivery channels. These delivery channels can be online or offline like hospitals. And to support this smooth tango are the key digital enablers. Now these enablers can be information, analytics. Analytics is the way you actually assess the risk. Your e-wallet, which basically handles all the transactions, the financial transactions, and digital ID, which actually leads to authentication. The question which we come to address is, why should healthcare lead to financial inclusion? There are various reasons. One, it targets the income group who cannot access quality healthcare due to lack of funds. It addresses the question of unaffordability to high quality healthcare. It solves for traditional approach to financing like selling valuables or taking loans from on hefty interest rates. It addresses the issue of limited public insurance. It addresses the high cost of private insurance. And lastly, it addresses the difficult challenge of large-scale effort needed to create innovative financial model. How do we pay for healthcare? So a few insight. The $72 billion that Indians spent on out of pocket is twice the size of the Indian smartphone market currently. Now think about how easy it is to buy a smartphone. And now just imagine, compare the experience of paying a hospital bill. Isn't it tragic? The kind of experience which general public has to go through, just arranging funds for their treatment of their loved ones. What we see as EarlySalary. EarlySalary is one of the largest digital lenders across the country. We are into healthcare loans. Now, what is the benefit to the healthcare providers when we say about these healthcare loans? One, it provides more cash to the provider or the hospital. It increases patient volumes. The conversion rates will be definitely higher because the OPD to IPD rates, OPD to IPD conversion improves when we provide affordability. It improves brand and goodwill, and it provides seamless implementation and less stress. What are the benefits to the patient? The benefits of Fintech to patients are it helps them handle the payments as manageable EMIs. Flexibility in the payment, they can pay as per what they earn. Solves for liquidity challenges, because generally if you actually see what are we solving for when we actually talk about healthcare finance is majorly liquidity. So either it is insurance where we actually handle the crisis under the umbrella of insurance, or when it comes to funding, then it is about solving for liquidity. And 100% of, when we talk of the benefit of Fintech, then 100% of medical expenses are covered under this. Innovation in Fintech is coming out as a perfect solution to solve this healthcare finance problem. With its AI, quick decisioning, and digital process, a patient can get access to funds at no cost in less than 3 minutes. We at EarlySalary have been constantly striving to provide the best customer experience at the lowest cost to the customer. We are the biggest digital lender of India. We have 100% digital journey. We have done 6,500 crores of disbursement till date. We have more than 10 lakh customers active at any given point of time. And there are various advantages when it comes to digital lending. We are one of the largest, or I think we are the largest new to credit digital lender. How the Fintech solution from EarlySalary can create advantage for healthcare service providers. Improve OPD to IPD conversion. On an average, the occupancy level of any hospital hovers around 70 to 80%. Therefore, a challenge of unutilized capacity. On the other hand, the OPD to IPD conversion is at 30 to 40%. Therefore, on one hand, we have underutilized capacity. On the other hand, we need quality healthcare service from the hospital, but because we are unable to handle the affordability, we are unable to get it. Most EMIs or no-cost EMI solutions to patient is a very good solution to solve both these challenges of handling underutilized capacity and increasing the OPD to IPD conversion. The second is upselling of better health procedures. Many procedures are of far better quality, but of course expensive. For example, if we take a case of robotic surgery, many times it is not covered under insurance, but it is a far superior way of conducting a procedure, owing to lesser hospitalization time and speedy recovery for patient. and of course a better bed utilization and revenue for hospital. No cost EMI again is a perfect solution to help patient avail this method of surgery. The third is improving patient and family experience. Hospitals are now a space of hospitality. Providing a seamless customer experience is one of the key parameters of any hospital. One of the main pillars of the experience is patient affordability, which can be enabled or enhanced by providing no-cost EMI solution. It's like adding cashless facility insurance or point-of-sale machine, and then later, adding payment solutions like GPay, Paytm, etc. So these all of these solutions were added to make the customer feel more comfortable in handling his transactions. No cost EMI is that add-on, which a little bit, even though it adds a little bit revenue sharing from the hospital, but adds a lot of value to the patient and improves in conversion of the customer. Our uniqueness in EarlySalary. So if we see, so we don't, a customer does not have to download an app. He can do it through a web link. That actually solves a lot of customer pain. Our conversion times, we can offer a loan within as low as 15 minutes. That's around a time when a patient walks into the hospital and gets admitted. That also takes a little longer. Our systems are so strong that we can do it in lesser time. Third, in terms of the hospital or the healthcare service provider, there is a very strong real-time dashboard which is provided to the healthcare service provider. We are the largest new-to-credit lenders in the country. There is no tech integration required, so there is very little or minimal or no tech integration required. It's a plug-and-play service, and we can start at any given point of time. There is a morning to evening support, a dedicated team which actually handles all the customer queries, which actually saves the bandwidth of the hospital staff where we are partnered. To conclude, I would like to put forward the concept of patient experience and affordability as a significant game changer for hospitals. The impact on the growth of healthcare hospital industry is expected to be similar to what happened to the automobile industry, or to the mobile industry, or to the consumer durable industry. Wherever finance has been an enabler, that industry has grown by 10x. Insurance was a very significant game changer for the healthcare industry. Now it's a time for Fintech to do that 10x growth. Thank you. Any questions? Sure.
Actually, I am also working in a hospital for long, and we really have this kind of problem for particularly surgeries which you mentioned, which is of high productive surgeries, but the very high cost. Now, do you have have you ever thought about, suppose you end up of not recovering the loan, what happens? Do you take any guarantee, or there's a kind of a mortgage, or I don't know how it, because I missed the first half of the presentation. Number one question. Number two is, since we are operating in rural Bengal, and so what happens is there's a lot of people who is cash rich, but they do not have any insurance. So, but they do not even get to know about all these facilities. So do you have any plans to go to the primary health level?
Sure. Thank you. That's a really nice question. So, to address the first part of your question, whether there is any collateral or any kind of guarantee, no, this is a totally unsecured loan. It operates like an unsecured loan, so there is no collateral needed. Our risk engines we are one of the most strong. We are an NBFC, and we are one of the most strong risk engine NBFCs in the country. Our risk models are tuned to identify and handle the risk associated. So there is no any kind of collection or any kind of financial collection solutions problem for the hospital which we are associated with. So that indemnifications are always there. In terms of the second part of your question about the being, the going to the tier 2 and tier 3 places, we operate across the country. We are a total digital platform, therefore we are able to address I think almost all the parts of the country, even Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So yes, we are. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think what you have proposed here is the need of the hour. In India, when the penetration of insurance is so less, I think you are going to give some empowerment to the patient. But my questions are two. First, do you disburse this loan or whatever fund to the patient or to the hospital where they are undergoing treatment?
It's done to the hospital. So we partner with the hospital. So it's like if you actually see, it's a tool. This financial product or this financial solution is a tool in the hands of the hospital to empower them to service the patient better. So the process is very simple. A patient goes to the hospital, gets diagnosed for whatever treatment he's or whatever ailment he has, is advised a line of treatment. And if he does not have insurance, or if he is underinsured, then the hospital actually offers this as a service. So the disbursement is directly done to the hospital, our partner hospital, wherever we are.
The second question is, when you directly disburse to the hospital, do you have a subvention model where hospitals are supposed to give away a percentage of the total disbursement?
See, again, that's a very nice question. So from the hospital's perspective, you have to see of considering this as two different angles. One, what is the challenge we are solving? Are we solving the convenience part for the customer? In that case, the interest rates are very nominal. The customer bears the interest rate. If we are solving for the for the conversion of that OPD to IPD, where the customer, where the hospital says, okay, we don't want to load any additional cost to the customer. In that case, it's a very, very nominal subvention which the hospital bears, and the customer is provided a 0%. It's like, it's like a BNPL industry. It's like any consumer durable or your mobile phone. The volumes which get generated because of the subvention which has been taken actually negates the loss which was due to the revenue sharing. It actually generates 2, 3, 5x times more revenues comparatively.
So there is an option that without subvention also hospital can?
Yes, yes.
And the third question is, from the time a patient, especially not a very elective case, but maybe they have gone in an emergency or semi-emergency kind of condition, what is the kind of TAT you have from the application till loan disbursement?
So we, the entire journey takes around 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes we give an approval. The 15 minutes is where the customer is actually filling what, document, whatever details we are taking. The entire processing is less than 30 seconds, where we can actually, give a credit approval. Once the approval is given, the customer or the patient can actually go and take his treatment. Once the treatment is done, then we disburse within T+1 when we get the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I'll request you to please take a seat. And may I request Mr. Yasin Chaudhary, Dr. Vaibhav Kapoor and Mr. Rustam Lawyer to please join us on stage along with Dr. Ravi Gupta. And I'll request the audience, if you have questions. We've heard Mr. Chaudhary talk about various innovative initiatives that are being planned, have been undertaken in Jammu and Kashmir. So if the audience has any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Shobra, please. Dr. Joy, any questions?
Yeah. My question to Dr. Chaudhary, I think from Jammu Kashmir implementation of digital health mission. I'm here. Yeah. So my question, how many months or years you see ahead of you to get to implement all this, and what you have told as a, this is going to be the benefit from all stakeholders. How long you think we need to wait? One is from the Jammu Kashmir point of view, and also I need to know from overall, from the national perspective, what is the kind of roadmap and what is the kind of timeline you think is there?
Right, thank you so much. And that's a very good question, because obviously all this sounds very flashy, very ambitious, but it won't make sense if it is not tangible and it doesn't see, it's not visible before everyone. So, but look at it this way: the main, deal has the hard part of the journey was actually building the IT capability, robust interoperable platform, and these 4 tools that are talked about, which could then be used anywhere by anyone. So that part is over, the developmental part of the cycle. Now it's a ready-to-use product which any state or UT government or health department of the same or any private hospital can adapt. So they can just plug and play. So the next part that we need to talk about is how soon are we going to scale up. So let me give you an example. Population of J&K UT is 1.3 crores. Out of that, today 64 lakh residents have gotten their ABHA ID. Not all 64 lakhs are using it, not actively, and but the whole thing is a process. As in, there's an option that we have set out. Now people are going to start. People are enrolling themselves, and slowly they're going to start using it. They have gotten an ABHA ID today. Tomorrow, if they're seeing, say, an ophthalmologist, they might not wish to use it because they're not seeing anybody else do it. But then in a matter of weeks or so, it will become, at least for government hospitals, the mandate, and for private hospitals, a hard choice, which they cannot move away from. So to come to, to talk months and years, I would say for the country, it's all already ready and set and being used. For us to see it become mainstream or the main, arrangement under which our IPD, OPD systems happen, I would say anywhere between 3 to 5 years in the country. For J&K, I am actually hoping that it becomes, for IPD, I had a, edge because I was doing ABPMJY universal. That means that all my IPD surgeries were already being digitized because I had given free, 5 lakh coverage to everyone. So we are doing well on IPD, but OPD is still far way short. But there are many things that we're looking at. For instance, at least in a blanket manner, we cover all the e-Sanjeevani teleconsultations that we're doing already. Then the RCH and HMIS entries for that matter. Tomorrow we can say all the GSSK entries, they will get covered. So in a way, those big strides are already out there. Thank you. Hope that answers your question.
Any other question?
Question for the our daycare procedures and the way it is progressing, shared by my friend there. How do you ensure? Suppose you imagine that you are opening a center in a particular metro city. There are plenty of big hospitals or nursing homes are there, and you are getting into that mode. How do you attract good quality surgeons? How do you do their privileging and credentialing? And if I consider or assume that they have very good credential and privilege, then how do you attract them? Why do they leave? Why they feel that they should leave a establishment and join you? So, 2 parts of the question.
I think I'll give you my example. So I was a consultant with Medanta under Dr. Adarsh Chaudhary, right? So now what one understands in a larger corporate setup, normally every patient is going to get admitted under the head, right? And then there is a layer of consultants who would normally do a lot of surgeries themselves. So what I believe is, there is a layer of surgeons who feel they are supremely confident, they normally do most of the surgeries independently, but the problem is, their FaceTime with the patient, and of course because of the hierarchy system, there is going to be a restriction to that, right? Any institute cannot sort of make 10 heads in one department or 10 consultants working independently in that department. Generally rolls out to one. So the reason is, one, the surgeons who join us, they understand that they have already been doing surgeries completely independently for years and years. Now when they come to Pristine, our distributed ecosystem helps them to directly have FaceTime from day one. So for example, we are in, suppose in South Delhi or in Delhi, we have 20 clinics. Each clinic maps a 10 to 15 kilometer radius. Now that surgeon or that gynecologist or that TNT doctor is a direct consultant there with Pristine, right? So they see the patient get admitted under them, they operate. That is where the surgeon clearly understands, as a surgeon mujhe kya chahiye. A surgeon feels that maine patient operate kiya hai, patient should know I have done it. So that is the biggest thing which attracts a surgeon to us. Second, of course, like you said, the credentialing part. So there was a way I got credentialed when I became a consultant at Max. I filled my things, my HOD saw my surgeries, he credentialed me. Similar criteria. A surgeon, when he comes to us, every surgeon, across India which we hire, they first come to Gurgaon. So Gurgaon is our headquarters. We have a team of close to 2,500 here. A very robust medical quality team, led by one of the ex, heads of Max. So there is the complete credentialing happens, right? Then the doctor, where has he worked in the past? So most of the doctors will be ex some big corporates where they have been doing surgeries independently. Then they are here for 10-15 days. They get that OPD training because we synchronize OPD training all along. We see them doing surgeries. The existing surgeons will then credential them. There's a advisory council, again very senior members there in place, who also look at them, and then they are credentialed. The second thing is, since ultimately Pristine doesn't have its hospital, so when we go to a hospital also credentials our doctors. One is credentialing by Pristine. Second, suppose we come and partner with Hinduja. So you guys will also credential our doctors. Probably the head of the Department of General Surgery will say, okay, Pristine's these 10 doctors are eligible to sort of operate in Hinduja. So that is the second level of credentialing which happens. Then of course monitoring outcomes every single time. Whether it is the patient in the OPD, whether it is the patient in the IPD, every patient's feedback is taken. How was your consult? How did you like the doctor? What were the concerns? And accordingly, the feedbacks are given back to them. I mentioned about stock options, which we've given at scale to a lot of our doctors. So what I also believe is another thing which retains the doctors with us is because like you said, we're not giving any exponential salaries to the doctors, and in fact they would be lower than what a corporate can actually give. The only thing is the long-term retention for doctors is through this, because they understand they have certain stock options, which we call as doctor stops, so they have that. As company grows in size, this grows for them. So this is one of the, probably we are the first organization to do it for a lot of doctors, not just probably the the top heads. So these 3-4 things, and it's like I said, it's a work in progress. We launched Prime, which I mentioned. It's Pristine Research Institute and Medical Excellence. So through this, we are going to connect with all the eminent surgeons of India and abroad. This gives them, our doctors, a chance to sort of work with them, upskill them, train on newer things, share different ideas with them. So I think we're trying to create a platform which not just attracts doctor, but helps them to retain for long term as well. Yeah.
Need some mics on the stage, please. Yes. Please stand up and identify yourself.
Directed. I'm sorry. Sorry. So my question is directed to Mr. Yasin Chaudhary. Thank you so much for speaking so eloquently, sir. So I think take into consideration the patient-centric based approach of the ABDM, right? And I'm sure the goal is to cater to the masses, especially residing in the tier 2 and 3 cities. Now, looking at the unified healthcare interface that you have designed, and knowing very well there's a digital divide between these masses residing in these cities, how can we ensure patient complies from their end in a way where you can ensure continuum of care and ensure the longevity in terms of the services that we are able to provide to them?
Thank you so much. Two very, very important terms: digital divide and continuum of care. These are the two of the, dozen odd terms that were the highlights of the health sector this year. So coming to digital divide, of course, that's a problem. That was a problem that we saw post when we demonetized and we had to scramble for digital payment systems. And then there were those who just didn't have smartphones, and how are they going to maneuver the system? That is going to be an issue. However, the system is built in a manner that a person who's not having smartphone or who is digitally illiterate, it doesn't mean that his health record cannot be generated. The record, which would have been otherwise been in hard copy format, that will be digitized. It's just that as far as, and for me the breaking point here is, are we able to properly, and there's an ethical question here, are we able to properly explain to the patient who's digitally illiterate, that look, we are asking for your consent to digitize your health record. Do you want to give it or not? Do you think that question would make sense to, say, a completely illiterate person who's never seen the face of a school and who doesn't understand what's a computer or what's a digital health record? No. But there would be a lot many who would be able to give a reasonable answer, a reasonable consent, an informed consent. And this is, this is what we have to identify. And I'll admit that's a challenge for us. I'll admit that's a gray line that we are still trying to grapple as to, out of the 1,000 people who walk into our government-run OPDs every hour, every minute, how many of them are, well-sounded on ABDM or not? So that is indeed a challenge, and it will take time. But the way our country is, going digital, the way digital awareness is increasing in the masses, I think it will be just another couple of years when we surpass this. The second thing, continuum of care. That's the, and I want to hark a bit about because how it came about, because NHM teaches you like the hardcore public health concepts which otherwise go waste. And so, the post-millennium understanding of public health across the whole world was prevention is better than cure. That our health systems, which were designed for only focusing on IPD, should move towards preventive care, community-based preventive health models, so that we can decrease the overall burden on tertiary care and secondary care. Now, in line with that only NHM came about, and so many community health interventions were formulated. Now, what we saw post 10 years of NHM is that we were actually collecting, our ASHAs and ANMs had been going door to door for so many months and so many years now, and we had we had created so many lists of patients with probable illnesses. We didn't know, or rather we didn't have a roadmap on what to do with those lists later. Okay. So it was like, okay, I will do NCD screenings, non-communicable disease screenings, as a part of my CPHC, Comprehensive Primary Healthcare Plan. You all must have heard of health and wellness centers, HWCs, the concept thereof, and every HWC, which is say located at a village level or a panchayat level, has a list of patients who are suffering from high blood pressure, hypertension, or diabetes and all. What do we do with those lists later on? Is there a continued referral process, and how does it work? It was unimaginable because we did not had a structured linkage between that primary care and tertiary care. Let's be, and I actually have no qualms in accepting the flaws in our own government systems here. Referrals don't really happen unless, referrals only happen between tertiary care to tertiary care, and that too only when the smaller hospital just doesn't have the doctors there, don't have confidence to treat him, so they will send him off. Otherwise, referral in the true sense would mean that a person who's been identified or who's screened from a community-based process is brought out and said, hey, you need a correctional surgery. An example would be, say, RBSK. How it works is, and RBSK was launched because we realized that in a country of billions, there are too many kids who were born with the simple, disorders like say cleft lip or club foot, which are completely and easily correctable, but they're not being corrected because those children or their parents don't know that those defects are correctable, or that they don't have access to services or people who can tell them that. So it was only a matter of, working on, doing the screening, working on those lists, and then putting those children in the OT rooms, operation theatre. So the fact here is that the COC, the Continuum of Care, which we are now working upon, is linking two major programs, CPHC and ABPMJY. CPHC is actually the largest program, and it's new. It's not old like RCH or GSSK or JSY. It's just 3 years old. And it's directed at this particular thing wherein we start having obviously individual-based health records, but which would also get updated when we continue with the screenings month after month or year after year, and would raise alarms and flag, which will enable us to seek out those patients and move them for IPD coverage under Ayushman, ABPMJY. So this is one model that is immediately recognized by us, and it happened later. ABPMJY was around for 4 years. CPHC has been around for 3 years, and it was only 6 months ago that we joined the dots and realized, yes, this could be done. And in fact, this was the missing link which we were, waiting for since the last 20 years. So that's one of the ways to go ahead on that. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think, Mr. Yasin, you have highlighted the various gaps in our healthcare system and how the new schemes of the government are like trying to plug in, and the digital becomes the bridge between the various layers in the system. So any other questions? Yeah, please stand up and identify yourself.
Hello everyone, myself Dr. Himlata Vats, and my question is with Mr. Parvaiz. Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening session. Since there are increased incidences of infertility in Indian scenario, and IVFs are very common nowadays, so what is your opinion of providing health insurance to the IVF cases, since there is hospitalization in daycare for the egg retrieval process, and it includes that also?
So that's a very nice question. Actually, it's IVF is now one of the largest segments, fastest growing segments in the healthcare industry. In fact, what happened in the early 2000s in the West is now actually being, kind of replicated in India in the fertility sector. Now coming to the, Fintech for IVF, Fintech solution, which includes insurance also, which you actually mentioned. Well, insurance, health insurance penetration right now in India is very, very low. It's at 7%, as I mentioned earlier. The kind of umbrella which of diseases which health insurance actually currently has lacks the elective side of many of the elective side of the surgical procedures. IVF being one of those, definitely I agree that at some point of time that would be as a lot of innovation is happening in the insurance and InsurTech, that will be covered. Having said that, again, we, as Fintech, as EarlySalary, we actually provide Fintech solutions to handle the liquidity challenges for this IVF segment. The segment will, actually, the challenge is not just getting the procedure done, but arranging for funds for that procedure. It can vary anywhere between 1 lakh to 3 lakhs kind of scenario generally, and it is very scattered right now. It's not standardized also, but the challenge on the finance side of it is liquidity. which any parents or parents who look forward to IVF face. And our solutions are very fine tuned in solving something as short term as 30 days and can go up to 3 years, so that the EMI is more manageable, and they can get their particular IVF done at the choice of their IVF center. So yes, we provide on the EMI based solution. The insurance part is yet to come in that sector.
Fantastic. Yeah. Please speak. Yeah. Please stand up and
Hi.
identify yourself. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Rashi. So my question is to Dr. Vaibhav. Hi. So it's a great idea, Pristine brought in this model. I think you were the first one to bring this model, and as a doctor, I understand it brought a lot of standardization in the costing of a particular surgeries when we talk about. But since, after Pristine now, you have Practo, Glamio, IU, a lot of people are stepping into this space. So as a surgeon or as a person from the industry, I always feel that the more penetration into the market of these, people in this sector, it will dilute the quality services that we are actually planning to provide at a greater level. So what's your take on that?
I think I'll answer it two ways. One, 42 crore surgeries happen in India every year, right? So the number is large enough for not just one or two, but at least 10, 20, sort of different organizations to solve that. That is one. And anything which gets recognized, a lot of people will start to sort of copy it and continue to do this, which is perfectly fine. The second part on that is, so there will be more, organizations who try out this. The second thing is, while a lot of them do it, like you said, not everybody will be able to sustain, right? So for example, when Flipkart started, there were 1,000 or 100 e-com, companies which started the same thing, right? When Uber and Ola came in, there were 20, 30, 40 taxi players, who taxi for sure, and so many others who started. But ultimately, if you're not able to deliver what you promise, if you cannot maintain the quality, ultimately, the patients, the consumers are smart enough to understand ki bhai kiske paas jana, nahi jana. So maybe some will survive and some will probably, again shut.
No, my question is not for the organizations. My question is that from a simple marketing, like when you took Ola and Uber example. Now, if you see, because what I understand is the more the competition becomes, people start to compromise on the quality because they want to bring in the prices competitive to each other. Now, because healthcare is an industry which doesn't work like any other consumer industry or retail industry, we have to be very precise when it comes to the quality treatment. So, do you think that with these kind of competitions coming in, is it a possibility that right now, okay, Pristine is working hard enough to give that kind of quality care because they are working on, say, decent margins. But since the more the penetration starts happening, the competition will increase. So at the end, you will have to maybe cut down on your margins, and then it will lead to poor quality. Is what my question is.
So I'll not agree on that front. You see, Apple hasn't dropped its prices, right? Apple still sells because they say we give a premium quality product. We'll take a certain steps, right? Similarly, Amazon, Flipkart, they charge a certain fee to you, right? They're not saying, there's so many other e-commerce startups which are saying, we'll not take any fees, come back. So the idea is it's not necessary, for someone to drop the price, right? Like I said, the market is big enough, right? So there will be certain people who will say, okay, I'm probably getting a surgery for 5,000 less, I might go somewhere else. That will happen. But that doesn't, sort of put us into pressure, we have to sort of do that. We're already at a very, very competitive pricing. We've already pushed our hospital partners, to a good extent, because ultimately they also understand, we'll have to benefit the patient ultimately. So I don't see any reason, for us to sort of, get into that fight. And like you said, since we were the first ones, we are already market leaders into that. We are probably 100x bigger than the second, company who's into this. So for us, largely it will, not be affecting. Probably 5-10 players who are actually, the number 2 competing with each other, they might actually have to do that. So we are pretty sure, I truly believe healthcare doesn't come cheap. If you have to deliver quality care, you have to attract a cost. You have to pay your doctors good, you have to pay hospitals good. So, it will always be at a cost plus convenience. So in our minds, we are absolutely sure what we charge, it has remained almost same for the last 3 years. And probably, we're not getting affected by it as of today, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you. And Yasin, sir, just one question. When we talk about all the policies, government has, we still think that there's very poor awareness. Even when we talk about Ayushman Bharat policy, the penetration, even in tier 1 cities, if you go to a suburb where these people are living and who can actually avail that, the penetration is very poor. So what are we thinking on the concept of actually bringing the awareness to these people? Because as a doctor or maybe as a literate, I know there is Ayushman Bharat. But as he said, a person who is, my domestic maid does not know that Ayushman Bharat is there and how she can do. So what are we thinking on those lines?
Right. Thank you. I first want to go back to his last point, where we easily says healthcare, good quality healthcare doesn't come cheap. I'm here to defend that and counter that because that's my raison d'etre. As as a government officer in the health department, that's what I'm supposed to do. Rather, that's what I'm not supposed to do. I'm supposed to ensure good quality healthcare free of cost to the people. Does that mean, and I'm actually harking on a separate point here, but does that mean that me and him are working on opposite sides? Not necessarily. From the private, I am here giving a universal basic minimum, which is free and reasonable good quality. He is here in his capacity as a private entrepreneur, giving a better quality product, which costs. So there shouldn't be any, disorientation or idea of contrast here. But coming to your point, firstly, you said, okay, so that's a very interesting point that how do we make these schemes, take off in a universal manner that everybody makes use of it? Whenever we talk about centrally sponsored schemes, or more specifically, say, beneficiary-oriented schemes, which are government-sponsored, there are two kinds. There are either demand-driven or supply-driven. So I'll give you an example. When we launched COVID vaccination, in the initial months, nobody wanted to take it because there was so many confusion. So it was actually a supply-driven scheme. We had a lot of supply. The government was committed to inoculating everyone, so we were pushing it. After a while, after the third wave, everybody realized that the vaccine works and it's usable. So there was huge rush. So in a way, it became demand-driven. I'll give you other examples. So Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Assurance Scheme, is a milestone scheme, the biggest public sector scheme in the history of this country, which is demand-driven. Anybody who cannot find well-paying work will always have this as a backup. So there will always be demand, either in lean season or mean season. So there will always be demand. The same thing for ABPMJY. Anybody who is in need will find a way to get his golden card, to find an empaneled hospital and make its way. However, there is a very strong element of access here. Access elements which are driven by, say, illiteracy or geographical distances or ignorance for that matter, and many other things. And we are working on it. In fact, NHA as well as SHAs lay great emphasis on IEC and citizen awareness. But I would also, agree that we still have a long way to go in ensuring that a person is aware of his rights. A scheme is like, say, a constitutional right. If you're aware of your right, then you can make use of it. So if you're aware of your entitlement to a scheme, you can make use of it. So we need to work on that. Thank you.
Yes. Some of the great questions, and we had some of the great answers here. And I think I like this idea about this healthcare is high cost or a low cost subject, which is different for different sectors. Yeah. Any other points or questions? Yeah. Dr. Meher, like if you can stand up and identify yourself, and also like give the name of your organization so that everyone can relate to you.
Yeah. I'm Dr. Sushil Meher. I am looking after the healthcare computerization in AIIMS New Delhi. I'm observing all the questions as well as the answer from the decks. The quality of care, where it has been defined. Do you have any parameters? Just one question I'm asking you. One patient is admitted yesterday, few weeks back. He has a stomach cancer, gastric cancer, and he has to be treated in AIIMS. Whether surgery has to be done first or chemo has to be done first. Before that, you have to go for a lot of tests from the CT to PET, and that has to be reviewed. So how many specialists is involved in there? This is the treatment of protocols, they follow it. You need a gastric medical oncologist, you need a radiation oncology, you need a radiology person, you need a nuclear medicines, you need a gastric surgeon. All the peoples, they have to sit and you have to discuss and find the case, whether it has to be surgery, whether it has to go for a chemo or a radiation. So that type of specialist people should be available. That will, if you talk about the private hospitals, in that cases, the cost will go up. But many of the hospitals I have worked in the private, if the cancer means one specialist, whether it's a medical oncology or surgical oncology or radiation oncology, all are one. They are treating. Many places I have seen it. That's why we can't quantify. But when we will talk about the quality of healthcare and who is giving the best quality, ABDM has a good platform which has come up. Because since 2005, Government of India has started the standardization of health records. And right now, in 2017-18, we have the documents which has been circulated to the public domain for the ABDM. And it has been approved. And it's a wonderful initiative by Government of India, what I have seen in my journey. Try to understand, ABDM is a beautiful thing, but it has some problems. Problem is that personal data protection bill yet it has not been approved. If one person will tell, I don't want to be registered in ABDM, you can't force that. This is the major demerits. Because many all-literate persons, they do not want, and there is a lot of things it is in behind it, which we can't force it. In between, there is a one document is circulated by the government, it is called DISA, which will protect your health records. And that has not been approved yet, and that is also depend on the personal data protection bill. So if it will come up, what is the, right now we are talking about Uber and Ola. In that case, what it happens, the doctors or any healthcare service provider, it will go to the consumer that they will rate you just like your Uber and Ola taxi, that they have given this kind of service out of 5, 4 star. Here also, healthcare service provider, if each a doctor is giving any service, he has to register in ABDM. And he has the ID. And when you go for a treatment, and what kind of treatment you have got it, and how much you are satisfied, you can, if you rate it in future, if this platform will come, in that cases, the consumerization of the healthcare, it will come up. And it will be wonderful for all the publics to be, choose your right doctors or right healthcare service provider. Second thing is that one of the best things will come up. All the peoples, they will be registered in the ABDM. What will happen? There is some, definitely the apps will come up. If you want a physiotherapist for your parents, and where you will get it. So that apps will help you out and nearby who is the physiotherapist and how he's charging it and what time is available. Just like Uber and Ola concept. So this is also, it will come up if the ABDM has full-fledged all the data, then it is possible. This is my submission and my experience, what I am talking about. Thank you.
Excellent inputs, Dr. Sushil Meher, and you have rightly highlighted that healthcare is a very specialized subject and it needs a lot of specialists, and which of course increases the cost. And I think you are like chairing the next session just after the lunch. So I will request each of the audience here to like listen to him, because he is the most reputed specialist we have in this event on the healthcare IT subject, and a very experienced doctor at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and he heads the healthcare IT at AIIMS. So we will end this session here. I thank all our esteemed speakers on the dais and also our esteemed delegates for joining this, and handing it over to Garima.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Dr. Ravi Gupta to please honor Mr. Yasin Chaudhary, Mission Director, NHM Jammu and Kashmir. Can we have the memento on stage, please? May I request Mr. Chaudhary to please present the mementos to Dr. Vaibhav Kapoor, Mr. Rustom Lawyer, and Mr. Parvaiz Hussain on stage, please. Thank you. Dr. Kapoor, we'd like to have you back on stage. One picture with the magazine, please. Thank you everyone. We'll now break for lunch.